It was the night of March 27, 1999. High above the dark clouds of Serbia, a shadow moved silently through the sky. It had no radar signature, no sound that could be traced, and no light that could betray its presence. To the world, it was invisible. The F-117 Nighthawk, America's most secret weapon.
They can't see me.
But that night, for the first time, the invisible would be seen. Captain Michael Stein sat alone inside his cockpit, surrounded by the dim green glow of his instruments. Every movement was calculated, every breath controlled. He had done missions like this before. Fly deep into enemy territory, release his payload, and vanish before anyone even knew he was there. Tonight's target was a communications bunker
We are
on the
holding
outskirts
course.
of Belgrade. His orders were clear: get in, strike, and get out. But something about the night felt different, heavier, quieter. A gut feeling whispered that this flight would not end like the others. Far below him, hidden beneath layers of concrete and steel, a Serbian air defense commander named Colonel Zoltan Dani watched an aging radar screen flicker with weak echoes. For weeks, stealth aircraft had crossed his skies unchallenged, bombing his country without warning. The world said they were untouchable. Dani refused to believe that. No machine, he thought, was ever truly invisible. As the radar swept its circle again, a faint pulse appeared. Barely visible, but there. His operators dismissed it as interference. But Dani leaned closer, his cigarette glowing faintly in the dark room. "No," he murmured. "That's something real." He ordered his crew to prepare the launchers. If the Americans believed their ghosts could not be hunted, he was about to prove them wrong. Up in the sky, Michael's Nighthawk glided effortlessly through the thin air. The clouds parted below him, revealing the faint lights of villages far beneath. His stealth systems showed nothing unusual. The radar warning display was silent. He was a shadow moving through a sea of black.
Approach.
At 23,000 feet, he opened his bomb bay doors and armed his weapons. The target appeared on his screen, almost within range. He took a deep breath, steadying his hands on the controls. Then a sound cut through the hum of the cockpit.
Maintain silence.
A sharp
Hold your fire
electronic
until further
beep.
notice.
He frowned.
Flares away.
Stealth
He's
aircraft
still
were
on
not
me.
supposed to trigger radar warnings. He checked again.
Burn.
The signal was real. A red light blinked on his
Raven
panel.
1 to control.
Radar
Crossing the
lock
Danube.
detected.
Systems green.
System red.
Roger that,
Michael's
Raven
heart
1.
quickened.
You're clear to proceed.
That can't be right, he muttered. But it was. Someone down there had seen him. Inside the bunker, Dani's voice was calm but firm. Target bearing 743, range 22,000 feet. His operators hesitated. The lock was weak, unstable. It didn't matter. He knew roughly where the Nighthawk would be. "Fire one," he commanded. A surface-to-air missile roared upward,
Missile launch.
leaving a trail of fire through the night. Seconds later, he
Breaking
gave
left.
another order. "Fire two." The ground shook as a second missile launched,
shot two, we
chasing the
read you.
first into the darkness.
Extraction
In the
inbound.
sky, alarms screamed in Michael's cockpit. He banked hard left, trying to evade. The first explosion flashed behind him, the shock wave rocking his jet. The second came moments later, a blinding burst that tore into his right wing. The Nighthawk shuddered violently. Smoke filled the cabin. He tried to regain control, but the aircraft was breaking apart. "Mayday, mayday! Raven 1 hit!" he shouted into the radio. There was no response. The systems were dying. He reached for the ejection handle.
Please, ma'am.
Ejecting now! The seat
mean no
blasted
harm. I
free
just
and the
need
world
water.
turned into fire and wind. For a few seconds, everything went silent. Then the parachute deployed, jerking him violently upward. Below him, the black outline of his stealth fighter spiraled down, trailing flames. It hit the earth with a dull roar that echoed for miles. Michael watched it burn, his heart sinking. Invisible, he thought bitterly. Not anymore. He landed hard in a muddy field, pain shooting through his leg.
Missile.
The night was cold, the
Evasive
ground
action.
soaked with
Hard
rain.
right.
Above him, the glow of the crash still burned like a small sunrise. In the distance, searchlights began to sweep across the hills. He knew the Serbians would be coming. Colonel Dani arrived at the wreckage within the hour. The smoldering remains of the F-117 lay scattered across the field. Black panels, broken wings, strange materials unlike anything his men had seen. They had done it. They had brought down the invisible. Dani stared quietly at the wreckage. "He thought we couldn't see him," he said softly. But even ghosts cast shadows. He turned to his soldiers. Find the pilot. He's out there somewhere. Michael crawled through the mud, dragging himself toward a shallow ditch. He cut his parachute loose and buried his helmet under wet leaves. Every movement sent pain shooting through his leg, but he kept going. He could hear dogs barking, voices shouting in Serbian. Rain began to fall, masking the sound of his footsteps. He waded through a stream, letting the cold water carry away his scent. Hours passed. The night seemed endless. At dawn, he heard footsteps nearby, search parties moving in lines. He pressed himself into the mud, barely breathing. A flashlight beam passed inches from his face. For a moment, he thought he was safe. Then a twig snapped. One of the soldiers turned. "There he is!" someone shouted. Gunfire erupted. Michael ran, half limping, half stumbling through the trees. Bullets whipped past him, striking branches and bark. He dove behind a fallen log, heart pounding. A soldier came around the corner. Michael lunged forward, grabbing the man's rifle. They wrestled in the mud, a desperate, silent struggle. Michael struck him once, twice. The soldier went down. Breathing heavily, Michael whispered, "Sorry, brother." He took the man's coat and kept moving. By nightfall, exhaustion set in. He reached a small village at the edge of the hills where the smoke from chimneys rose into the rain.
You are not from here.
He knocked softly on a wooden door.
Water.
An old woman opened it, her eyes filled with suspicion. "You are not from here,"
My
she said
son
in a heavy
died in this
accent.
war.
"I just need water," Michael replied quietly.
Maybe helping you brings him
After a moment,
peace.
she stepped aside. Inside, she handed him a piece of bread and a warm blanket. "My son died in this war," she said. "Maybe helping you will bring him peace." Michael could only nod, unable to speak. War, he thought, turns strangers into saviors. That night, he left before dawn, whispering a silent thank you as he disappeared into the fog. He climbed toward the hills, his strength fading, until he found a rocky ledge overlooking the border. From his survival kit, he pulled out a small transmitter, his last hope. He switched it on and a tiny red light blinked.
But even
Minutes passed
ghosts
before a
can
faint
fall.
voice came through the static. "Raven 1, this is Falcon Base. Do you copy?" Michael exhaled in relief. "Copy," he said. "I'm alive. Extraction needed. Hostiles nearby." "Hold position," came the reply. "We're coming for you." Hours later, the distant thump of rotor blades echoed across the valley. A Black Hawk helicopter appeared, its searchlight sweeping over the terrain. Michael waved his infrared beacon. The chopper tilted and began to descend. But on the Serbian radar, Colonel Danny had seen it too. "He's alive," he said grimly. "Don't let him escape." Searchlights flared up. Machine gun fire tore through the night as the helicopter dropped a rope. Michael
Invisible
ran,
things
every
still
muscle screaming.
cast shadows.
Bullets struck the ground around him, sparks lighting the darkness. He leapt, grabbing the rope, climbing with everything he had left. "Got him!" a voice shouted from above. The helicopter rose, tracers flashing below as the ground fell away. Hours later, Michael sat inside a NATO tent in Italy. His face was pale, his uniform torn. An officer entered, placing a report on the table. "The first stealth aircraft ever shot down," he said. "You've made history." Michael looked up slowly. "History," he replied, "isn't always something to be proud of." Far away in Belgrade, people crowded around the wreckage displayed in the city square. Children climbed onto the broken wings. Photographers snapped pictures, and Colonel Danny stood quietly among them.